Welcome everyone to Rock Watch, the first, only, and final episode of a totally original series, totally not plagiarizing an already very popular crocodile-centric observational series talking about the hidden details and theories behind the possibility of a certain very special crown-wearing crocodile's reappearance into the Donkey Kong zeitgeist. I've been doing a lot of theorizing about Donkey Kong Bananza, guys, but the majority of it has been done in my croc-hard head. I've put a couple theories out there, but mostly just been keeping up with the theories that have been put forth by Don't Mind Joe, Uncle Al, Kong Compendium. If for some unlikely reason you're on my channel but haven't seen theirs, go remedy that. But I want to share something with you all. A little secret I have. I am a Kremling connoisseur. Yes, I have been talking about the banana language, the great animal elders, the Bananza transformations, but in my heart of hearts, I'm just a little Kremling fan with a little Kremling fantasy. I want the king of the crocs to come out of the rocks and grace us again with his Kremmy croc walk.
Too crispy.
It was in the early 2000s that I was introduced to King K. Rool, playing my dad's SNES and loving the Donkey Kong Country trilogy. He had 100% save files, so being good at the game wasn't a roadblock to experiencing this Kremling's captivating character. I fell in love, of course in a completely platonic way, with this stud of a Saurian. Ever since I fought that first boss fight on Gangplank Galleon, and the dude got right back up and started fighting again in the middle of the credits of the game, it changed me, people. I was a Kremling stan. It was 2018 when I, a Switchless, scratch that, a Wii U-less Nintendo fanboy, was watching a Nintendo Direct on my iPad, and I saw those monkeys in that treehouse, and I knew immediately what was about to happen. Believe me when I say, never have I been so hype as when I saw the Smash Ultimate K. Rool reveal trailer. Never! I was literally jumping up and down in excitement. I have never done that before for a video game, and never since. Let alone for one that I did not even have the means to play. That is how I feel about this character. So ever since Bananza has been revealed and theories of K. Rool's inclusion started popping up, I've been lurking in the shadows, searching, following, looking at every detail of this game and consuming every theory that suggests our cannon-wielding Kremling will come back to DK canon. And yes, in my search I've made some discoveries, but not the discoveries that my heart craves, which is confirmation that this ravishing reptile is coming back. I am convinced though, I am 99% sure that King K. Rool is in this game at this point. And here today, I want to share my thoughts on all of the theories, all of the speculation, and present the last remaining questions that I have about this game and the little details that suggest to me that Nintendo is hiding things from us. The first thing I want to discuss is logic. Nintendo logic. I want us to briefly think about this game from the game developer perspective. Because when trying to discern whether Nintendo is making one decision or another, I think the most important viewpoint is, of course, Nintendo's. The nice thing is, we know who is making this game now. Nintendo hasn't always been entirely hands-on with the Donkey Kong franchise, but for this game, Bananza, Nintendo themselves has the reins, as arguably their biggest, most important team is making it, EPD Tokyo. Shocker! The game that feels like, sounds like, and references Mario Odyssey is made by the team who made Mario Odyssey. One seemingly reputable game dev interviewer on Twitter said that Bananza is being made by an offshoot of the Mario Odyssey team, and that he's heard Kremlings are making a return, which could still be the case depending on how Nintendo is classifying and structuring these teams. But let's take a look at some of what we know about the work of this team. And if you've been following all the DK theorists out there, this may be a little redundant, some of the details I'm going to bring up, but I just want to make an overarching picture of what's been in my brain. As you probably know, EPD Tokyo's first project under this iteration of the team structuring was a Donkey Kong game, Jungle Beat. They're often referred to as the 3D Mario team because they've been behind all of the major 3D Mario titles ever since 2007 with Mario Galaxy. They've done some remakes, they've done some spin-offs, but the interesting thing that relates to our discussion here is how they structure their enemies and bosses in their games. Jungle Beat has small monkey, bird, pig, and elephant enemies that line up with bigger monkey, bird, pig, and elephant bosses. Some of the monkeys even being called Ninjapes, and a boss being Ninja Kong. Look at Mario Galaxy. It has Lil Burrs and Baron Burr, Boom Boos and Bouldergeist, Mandibugs and Bugaboom, Rakdos and King Caliente, Bone Fins and King Fin Undergrunts and Major Burrows, Koopas, and Bowser. I think you get the picture, and these are just a couple of examples. When EPD Tokyo is making a game, the baddies usually have a big boss counterpart, and that's where the Crocoids come in. You could say, but Crispy, they do have a boss counterpart. Didn't you see the amalgamized monster that Grumpy Kong grumped together? Yes, I did, but I don't think that's all the correlation is, because we see the Crocoids throughout the whole game. Seemingly all the layers, not just the ones that have a grumpy original. But what if they decided not to do that this time, and they just wanted to have the Crocoids there as a nice little reference? They are following it. We know this. You see those Peekaboopoids? Notice the boss of this resort layer. Yeah, they haven't given up on the baddie-turned-boss formula. No way. Another thing I've heard people say is, but Crispy, Nintendo isn't going to bring the Kremlings back, they hate Rare. It was just because of Sakurai that K. Rool came back to Smash. Besides, they don't even own the rights to him. And this is one of the most unfounded points that I've seen brought up about this idea. It seems that this whole narrative that Nintendo hates Rare or that they won't bring the Kremlings back out of spite might have stemmed from one salty comment that Miyamoto made decades ago, but there's really no evidence of Nintendo being against Rare and their work. And Rare does not own the Kremlings either. Even some at Microsoft were confused about this at the time when they bought Rare. Some thought that by buying Rare, they were buying Donkey Kong. But no, they weren't buying any part of Donkey Kong. And I think the reason people think this is because of Retro Studios, note again, not even Nintendo's, decision to not include them in the Returns games. Not for any jealous or spiteful reason, but because their artists simply had some fun ideas of their own that they wanted to try. But again, Retro is not making this game. Nintendo's biggest team is. A team that makes some of Nintendo's most epic, overarching games with callbacks and references that span across their franchise's entire history. And here's where those facts and logic come in. We're asking, will Nintendo bring K. Rool back? But the better question is, why wouldn't they? What a draw, don't you think? A character at the core of a franchise that's been MIA for 15 years? That was one of the highest voted on amongst a pool of characters that deserve to be in a game that represents all of gaming history. A character that there is such a raging fanbase for, that even now, despite not appearing in a true mainline entry of this series since the Nintendo 64, people are willing to spend months dissecting 16th century literary works from the Ming Dynasty just to get a hint at his inclusion? Yeah, that's a pretty strong pull, I'd say. Combine that with the fact that this is the Odyssey team that put so much love and fan service into paying homage to Mario's history that it made people cry, heavily basing the story on a famous piece of literature. And if this dev interviewer is to be believed, the devs on this game possibly even being DK fans themselves. I think it makes all the sense in the world for them to want to bring these crocodiles back. How can you pay true fan service to this series without the Kremlings? I am 99% convinced that these here monkeys are nothing but a sly, brutal equivalent that is being pushed to the limelight in order to shock us with a big reveal. So that's the if and the why of it. Now, what about the how? How will this glorious gator be implemented in this game? I think much of that is dependent on the answer to one question. Who does Nintendo want King K. Rool to be? This question is important because it will likely inform what role King K. Rool plays in this game. Is he the secret mastermind behind the Void Company, hiding so sheepishly behind a boulder? Is he being mind-controlled, forced into submission by a truly evil band of Kongs? Or is K. Rool himself a true villain, willing to betray everyone at any cost? There's validity to each idea, so let's go over each of them and I'll give my take. Kong Compendium on YouTube shared his theory a while back that this scene here, which has a suspiciously Kremlish laugh, is actually our croc behind this big rock. It's a very compelling idea, and I think it makes a ton of sense that it would be. I can't see any reason why this rock should be here. From a design perspective, he's right. It just doesn't fit the composition. It's unmarked, it makes Voidco stand out less from the crowd from the Krem rocks around them, and on its own, it would literally be nothing. But that pitched down laugh, that isn't coming from any other mouth, that literally sounds like K. Rool's laugh, that is pretty good. Pretty good. So, Is K. Rool the actual leader of Voidco? The secret CEO behind the scenes pulling the strings of their plot? I think it's very possible, but I think things may go a little different direction. In fact, I think this rock may be a lot more symbolic than a simple spoiler tag wall. More on that later though, because I need to talk about Wukong Theory. In my opinion, the most compelling and consistent theory about K. Rool's inclusion by far has been the one conjured up by Don't Mind Joe. He puts forth in his videos the theory that this game has heavy inspiration from a famous 16th century Chinese novel, Journey to the West. I, of course, as a man who is far too unintelligent to read, had never heard of it. But it stars a monkey named Sun Wukong, Kong spotted, I'm already sold, who was born from a rock, is able to transform into other animal forms, and goes on a journey west to India. I can't possibly cover all the facets of his theory, as there is far too much for my brain to handle, but the aspect of this theory that involves K. Rool is the idea that he may have ties to a character in the story known as the Bull King, a sort of sworn brother figure to Wukong. A character that doesn't necessarily get along with the main monkey, but matches him in power, and acts more so as a rival. This is an interesting connection, as it's been noted that the Smash Ultimate's reveal trailer for King K. Rool is titled The Rivals, not necessarily depicting him as the big bad that he used to be. Where his theory gets even more interesting, though, is that in Journey to the West there is a villainous character called the Six-Eared Macaque. Of course, our supposed leading villain here is Voidkong, who is clearly a macaque. And what's interesting about it is the Six-Eared Macaque's close tie to deception and falsehood. Uncle Al has made some compelling videos about this as well. How the macaque is a deceitful doppelganger, tricking others about who he really is. Some have speculated this means he is K. Rool, that K. Rool has undergone the macaque Bananza, and will eventually turn back into his scaly self. I don't think this is the case though. This dude does not look like a super-powered version of anything. What's more likely, I think, is that the connection to the Six-Eared Macaque and the theming of trickery and deceit has more to do with the fact that up until later in the game, we the player will be led to believe that this monkey is the main villain. No K. Rool in sight. Another piece that's interesting to this is that the Six-Eared Macaque in Journey to the West is not the main villain. He seems to me to be kind of a side character. There are really so many details that could possibly be connected between Bananza and Journey to the West, and I'll touch more on those later too. But I want to start getting into some of the theories that have been living and growing and thriving in my brain. The one theory that I really can't get over is my Fractone Theory. The creatures are just so fascinating. My theory was that some of these rock creatures are actually other NPCs that have been transformed by Voidco and trapped inside rock bodies, especially these two in particular, which could indicate the existence of an elephant and a giraffe Bananza transformation. I have some updated details to back this theory up, but how does this relate to King K. Rool? Here's my thoughts. Uncle Al recently commented on my video in a recent stream. Cue the monkey clip!
It's a really fun theory, and I enjoyed listening to it. It's a fun idea. I'm not so sure I'm convinced of it though. I really think, and I know, here we go again. Here I go again on my whole croc shtick. It's just my thing, I guess. That's just what we do around here, okay? We yap about crocs. I seriously think there's gonna be like a Kremling Bananza form. I feel like it makes sense. You know, we have so many croc-related things in the game. It just makes sense. Just makes sense that there would be like a Kremling Bananza.
Yes, I framed my video as this is every transformation in the game. And those are the only animals I can give you evidence as to why I think there will be transformations of them in the game. Many commenters have pointed out that the skill tree we see in the menus of Bananza bolster this idea, showing spots for the known transformations, with there being 2 more to the right, making a total of 5 spots that would line up with the other 2 transformations. I do really think this bolsters that idea, but even so, I do believe there will be a Kremling Bananza in this game. How, Crispy, how? Well, in exactly the same way that we got a Bowser capture in Odyssey. There were a lot of captures in Odyssey that you could use throughout different levels, but at the very end, a special Koopa King capture, just for the final sequence. And this is how I think the 5 transformations we talked about are the main ones we can use throughout the game. and are the only ones that can be upgraded with the skill tree. But I do believe it makes perfect sense for there to be a final boss sequence where we get the opportunity to do one last final fight with an exclusive Krem Bananza. What will his powers be? Who knows? But I really like the idea of someone in my recent stream who gave the idea that you'll be able to throw a banana-themed K. Rool crown akin to his first boss fight in Donkey Kong Country 1, blasting through the rock at full force, fighting Voidco. But wait, Crispy, you said Voidco? Wouldn't the final fight be against K. Rool? Well, this is where more of my theory comes in. I wanted to briefly touch on Uncle Al's most recent video where he proposes the idea that K. Rool is being mind-controlled by Voidco. That he is the monster with big feet that the monkeys are dragging around to do his bidding, under the control of some kind of mind control Bull King mask. It's an interesting idea, but there is one issue, I feel. Isn't that kinda pathetic? For K. Rool, that is. I would find it odd, and honestly a little off-putting, if this character we have so much love for, that was this big, hulking, sick, green Kong-fighting machine that we've been waiting so long to see once again, was just relegated to a simple tool in the hands of a sickly bow-tie-wearing freak of a macaque. Even if he does break free at some point. And again, I think this comes back to, what does Nintendo want K. Rool to be now? The theory I'm currently running with is that Void Kong is the main villain of this game, with a bit of a twist. When I'm looking through footage or listening to trailers, I'm always drawn to the things that are out of place, that seem to be out of nowhere with no true purpose. Because when you can't see the purpose right away, a lot of the time that means the purpose is hidden. One detail that stood out to me is the mention in the Bananza Direct of something called the Banandium Root, which is said to grant wishes. This seems to be the MacGuffin of the game. That's what Void Kong is after, that's what Pauline and DK are going after as well. We know Pauline wants to get back to the surface, and DK just wants more bananas, but we don't know why Voidco wants to get there. Nintendo's even teased us about this. Would it be just for the Banandium? But I don't think so. I think they probably have a more sinister wish they want granted. I think, like many villains, Void Kong's goal is power. He obviously has a massive ego. See a banana? Mine, mine, mine. We're not just talking about digging mining here. He wants that stuff for himself. Why? Because the Banandium is a power source. This much is obvious to me. In dialogue, this giraffe factory is called the Banandium Refinery. A refinery being a place where a raw material is refined into a more useful product, such as taking raw oil and making it into gasoline for you to power your car with. So what is Voidco trying to power with this whole mining operation? What are they using the Banandium for? Let's go over what we know. When Donkey Kong breaks one of these purple void seals, it turns into a yellow Banandium goop that looks very similar to what we see this boss inside the refinery Mad Mixer mixing. The seal-turned goop then forms back into solid Banandium. Interesting. It seems to me that this process of turning Banandium into the void seals is one of their main objectives. What for? Control. We can see clearly from the dialogue with this giraffe Fractone that the relationship Voidco has with the NPCs living in this area is strained. Even though Void Kong's face is plastered all over town, the Fractone says he came in and mugged the whole village, more or less. He is not from here, he does not belong here. The factory does not belong to him. But then, who? Here's where a bit more speculation comes in. I believe that Void Kong has been up to some very naughty things. And dare I say, I don't think this journey to the center of the earth is his first. Let's start with that. In the very first trailer for Bananza, we got this scene. Yeah, the one with the boulder. But also another massive boulder crushing into Ingot Isle. We still don't know much about what kind of powers are at play here, and who exactly is behind this ability to make celestial bodies crash into the earth. But whenever I'm watching these trailers, like I said, I'm drawn to the little things, the little details that stand out, that don't really make sense. Because there's always a reason for them. Sometimes they just hide them in plain sight. And in the Bananza Direct, there was a very interesting detail that stood out to me. Take a look.
However, just as he's about to enjoy the notable nanas, a sudden tempest sends him deep down underground.
Now, why in the world would they use the word Tempest. Who uses that word? Not storm, asteroid, hurricane, tornado, cyclone, lightning storm. Even when looking at the Japanese word for tempest, tempest is the second definition behind storm. It's not like that's the main word they use over there. Almost anything would have made more sense than using the word tempest. Are they just trying to make it sound a little fancy, a little cool? Maybe. Or maybe this specific power was acquired from a specific place. After my transformation theory video, I had multiple people message me about an image that backed up my idea of the elephant layer. This image here. Notice the elephant-shaped rocks, the flags flowing in the wind that look like elephant ears and trunks. This image was found in a secondary Nintendo website for Bananza, not the main one, so it took some tracking down. But to those who said that this guy looks like he might be a koala, I'm sorry, but this almost 100% confirms to me that we are dealing with elephants here. And they look like Taj guys, it just warms my little heart. But beyond just the elephants, you'll notice something very interesting in the background. The weather in this layer is quite intense. And on the website, this image was right next to a few other images of layers in the game, all of which we've seen before. Two of them are the forest and the canyon layer, which we know the official names of, but then there's also this beach layer with the square fruits. Now, oftentimes to download these images, I'll use sites that extract the actual image files straight from the website instead of downloading them. It's just faster that way. But one interesting thing I found while doing this is that in downloading the specific images as they were uploaded, it comes with the title of the image that was uploaded with it as well. And I found something very interesting about these images of these layers. Canyon, forest, resort, tempest. Isn't that something? Isn't that just the somethingest something you've ever seen? It seems to me that the elephant layer, the one with these elephant-shaped rocks, the elephant-shaped fractones, the electricity theme, and the inclement weather in the background, is officially named the Tempest layer. And here, we circle back to the boulder theory. Because how, do you ask, is Voidkong creating this Tempest? He doesn't seem to be using some kind of Tempest power Bananza transformation. That's just the ugly little monkey himself up there. I do find it interesting that the Macaque King from Journey to the West title is the Great Sage Informing Wind, but what if, instead of Rool behind that boulder, is someone else with the power to create a great Tempest? Maybe someone with big feet? How about a great elephant elder? Trapped in purple void substance, being used by Voidkong for their own evil deeds, trapping the other residents of the elephant layer in Fractone bodies so that they can use their leader as a pawn for their schemes. I think Voidkong is on a ravenous quest for power, but his issue is that a huge source of the power in this world is all connected to the Great Elders and to music. The Fractones are closely tied to music. The Elders use music to transform. Pauline uses music to break the Voidco seals. But Voidkong himself doesn't exactly seem to be the musical type. His voice is a little raspy. Don't think he has the best singing voice. And I don't imagine the Great Elders are very willing to give up the ancient secrets to their Bananza transformations to him. So I think he's been taking things into his own hands, using the power of Banandium to trap the Great Elders and use them in his own quest for power, whether that's by stealing their factory or by forcing them to create a massive Tempest. But Crispy, plot hole, we still have no evidence that any of these animal-shaped fractones match up with any in-the-flesh animal NPC. There it is. Zebra fractone. People, in my head there is so much going for this Fractone theory. Am I crazy? Am I insane? It explains Voidco's motives. It explains the odd animal-shaped fractones. It explains why Voidco had trapped Pauline, a girl with the power to make monkeys transform into other animals with incredible power. For sure you'd want to have her under your control. And if she's not cooperating, trap her in a rock and force the guy who has the power himself to do your bidding. It would explain why we get the ostrich Bananza before the giraffe Bananza, even though we've already visited the canyon layer, because if the elder we learn the transformation from is trapped somewhere else in the world, well, we have to go free him first if we want to get that power. So we've gone over a lot of possibilities. But how does King K. Rool factor in? I think King K is up to his old tricks. And that not only is he not working for Voidco, I believe Voidco is working for him. And they don't even know it. I mentioned earlier about this legend regarding the planet core. Here's a clip from the Direct.
It's said that one's wish will be granted by reaching the planet core.
Elsewhere, they say of the planet core that there is a Banandium Root. I find very interesting the connection between a root and Journey to the West. At the very beginning of the novel, it mentions a divine root, at which Wukong is born from the stone egg. But the connection isn't really strong because in the story, that is a starting point, an origin point, not a goal or an escape that Wukong was trying to reach. But in Bananza, DK is going further into this mountain, which could very much be modeled after the Mountain of Five Elements, which Wukong is trapped in and needs to escape from. Note the 5 elders and the 5 transformations I've been talking so much about. But how does that make sense? What's the connection here? Obviously, this game isn't going to have a one-to-one story parallel to Journey to the West. But what if this Banandium Root is something more symbolic? What if this whole journey that DK and Pauline are embarking on is a journey going back to the root, to the core of the DK franchise? The crocodile core. Oh yeah, I'm bringing this back up. This was the theory that really got me hooked on the Bananza theorizing a couple months ago, when Uncle Al made a video presenting all the info about these specific colors that are all over the Donkey Kong world. The pink and the teal, the pink and the teal. I don't think these colors are coincidence, guys. They are so specific, and the fact that the source of these colors that we're trying to connect them to is at crocodile core? Core? Planet core? Guys, come on. I think this reptile is at the planet core, the crocodile core, the final layer of this world we are digging further and further into, and what else should we find at the core, at the root of the world, but a croc who represents the core, the root of this franchise, trapped within a stone crocodile egg, symbolically representing Journey to the West bulking, being trapped in a planet core of molten banandium that isolates him from the rest of the world, being modeled after the novel's Flaming Mountain, a region of intense heat and flame that no mortal man can pass through alive, requiring the help of an outside source to descend into the middle of the very planet itself and to free him, and has devised an entire myth of a wish-granting Banandium Root to allure someone down there to free him from his molten stony prison? Guys? Yes, we're blurring lines, we're crossing theory paths, we're mixing and matching and pulling from all over. Maybe my mind has truly gone into a whirlpool of a Kremling spiral, making my brain cells pop me into a crazed Kremling state, but it's kind of fun, isn't it? Maybe someone smarter than me can make more sense of these connections I'm pulling from, but the connections are there, people. The Bulking, K. Rool, the Fiery Mountain, the Planet Core, the Banandium Root, the root of this very franchise. I think we are going on a journey to unknowingly set King K. Rool free. No, I don't think he's a Voidco pawn. I think Voidco is a K. Rool pawn, and maybe we are too. But I did say that I think Void Kong will be our final boss. Yes, you see, I don't think our little macaque here is going to take lightly to being tricked by our lovable pop you with a blunderbuss, ploy you with a robot prankster. I think he's going to go into a monkey rage, using all of the Banandium at his disposal to create some kind of amalgamous purple monster like he did with all the others he's been fashioning up in his factory to take out DK and now King K. Rool for one last monkey bash. But how are we going to fight this massive, hulking final enemy, possibly crafted out of the roughest, toughest, practically impervious material that we've yet to see in this entire game? Kremling Bananza. Oh, sorry. I was busy cooking. So, we all want K. Rool to be in this game. Yeah. We want to know, is Nintendo really going to put him in? You've seen all the theories. I've told you my thoughts. And at this point, it's only a matter of time until we know. But the real question is, if he is, are you going to be able to handle it?
Smeargle, Smeargle!